Good afternoon and welcome back. We are here again and we hope you all had a good week. We didn't, but and it is really awful and depressing what's going on out there. A continued violation of our rights. Tragic.
It's depressing what's going on out here too.
It is awful, and I will discuss it. It's unbelievable what this world has come to. I don't know.
Childish.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's more criminal than childish, the behavior of the government. But anyway, Anyway, before we get into that, let's do station identification so we don't forget it.
Station identification.
For sure.
Hey, everybody listening to OrionTalkRadio.com and Micro 1650 in Tonawanda, New York. Glad you could join us. And everybody listening on TalkStream Live, TuneIn app for your smartphones. And, of course, TalkSuperstation.com.
And our friends are all those people listening to us on Spreaker.
Spreaker? I thought it said Spreaker. I'm sorry. Spreaker.com. We can't forget Spreaker.com.
Oh, absolutely not. They're the best numbers out there. Yeah. Anyway, so what has been happening this week is something that I find really distressing and extremely sad and such a waste. And it was reported on the web, not extensively, than other sites that are discussing it, but it was the death by suicide of Aaron Swartz, age 26, internet freedom activist.
Right.
Age 26. This man was an educated man, a lot of education, a lot of skill, a lot of ability, but he was charged with crimes. A criminal because he was trying to push internet freedom. And one of the horrible things he did.
We can't have that.
Right. He created a system that could access the research reports at MIT, and make it available to the general public. Because a lot of places, a lot of universities are making you pay to access their research report. And mind you, might be just $25, but that's $25 per report.
That's right. You remember we paid for that PDF of UAMS plagiarism against your work.
My work. Yeah, it was $25. Okay? Now, think about this. These research are paid for by either the federal government or some special interest groups, some businesses, pharma, big pharma, that type of thing. They're all paid for because, let me tell you something, I'm the only, or at least one of the few idiots that did research paying out of their own pocket, okay? But the professors at university will not do any research unless they get paid for it. They get paid, they have a grant, and they'll do the research. They're not going to do it for free. And they're grabbing all together when I was asking people to help with what I was doing. No, but this is without money. So they don't do it unless they're paid. So the research is paid. Either public money, either government or businesses is still our money because businesses make money with our tax money. So that's it. No. They want more money to just have you access. And the majority of people that want to read research reports, who are they? Graduate students that are trying to get a degree. They're trying to find out what's out there. They really don't have that much money to pay for every report they are looking for. That's ridiculous. That's not honest. It's not fair to them. And you tell me what difference could that possibly make to the revenue of a university that makes so much money with outrageous tuition and all other things they do and federal subsidy and all sorts of sources of money. What difference that could possibly make? That is not the reason why they're putting it. The reason is to limit the information, not make it easily accessible so the university can have something over other universities. That we do. We don't want you to know. MIT, this is the main culprit of this guy killing himself because of the lawsuit and the problem NYC was giving him. MIT, and he was Harvard, so rivalry between university. Okay, university are institution of learning. This thing about rivalry, it's ridiculous because they want student, they want more money. It's just a money fight because the institution of learning are businesses. They're not what they should be. They're just businesses and money to the stockholder. That's what has become, and it shouldn't be for education. That is not the point. That's why you have all these students that don't pass tests because they use this artificial way of grading, don't pass tests and have to take classes over and over and over, and then they can't graduate. It's a mess. Why? Because of more and more money to the board of trustees, more money to the organization, not to the professor, not to anybody, just themselves. It's disgusting. And so what happened? They filed suit against this guy. All he didn't make any money off of it. He did it to make the information accessible to everybody that wanted it. And he installed a computer in one of the MIT lab, and he had some particular software, and he did it, okay? Well, that makes him a criminal, and he was going to be prosecuted. And I don't know what kind of attorney he has, just a normal type of attorney, and they told him he needed to. Mind you, one of the organizations...
I think I read that he could have gotten several million in fines and 5 or 6 years in prison. No, even more than that. More like...
No, what they said was, okay, now there are different organizations. One was... he contributed in defeating the internet copyright laws so that people would not be attacked about violating copyright. But there was this organization, Internet Copyright Law, known as SOPA. This organization, actually asked the prosecutor to drop the charges against him. But MIT didn't. That's the problem. And so... basically, they were offering him a deal that if he pled guilty to 13 counts, okay, then he might have had some jail sentence, but not a lot. Otherwise, he would have to go to trial, and he could face 7 years in prison. Now, I'm giving you the word could have. Going on trial, you're taking your chances and see, yes, the lawyers are crooked, everything is crooked, but you can bring some publicity to it and make the public aware of what's going on. Take your chances, and that is my point. Don't give up. Don't give up the fight like that. Don't hand to them a victory that way so they can always blame you. Oh, he knew he was guilty, killed himself. No, fight for the right, for what's right, was just, your idea was correct. You know that you were doing the right thing for the general public. What do? Don't fight back. Don't give up the fight. They continue fighting.
No one can take away your right to fight, to never surrender, to never surrender.
Even in a song, never surrender, never surrender. Yes, the path is cold and dark, and believe me, I know it. I'm going through it. It's cold and dark, and you feel totally alone. But, like the song says, nobody can take away your right. No one. So never surrender. See what happened? What it is? He killed himself, probably because of the bad advice received by the attorney that told him he had no hope. And you don't believe attorneys. And it's a shame because the beautiful mind was destroyed, was eliminated, wiped out, which is what the enemy wants. Eliminate, exterminate. So we don't have to worry about this competent really capable people.
And we're heading into a break.
Okay.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle.
Okay, we're back from the break, and before the break, of course, we were talking about the case of Aaron Schwartz, and unfortunately, by his action, he enforced the ideas in the crooked establishment that they can push somebody to that state, and they can make their life so unbearable in the future, so dark, taking away any hope of anything improving, that people just choose darkness and kill themselves. And I think that's part of the plan. If they cannot kill them with a car accident and make it look like a pure event of chance, like a Karen Silkwood, if they cannot do that, then they'll push the person to the edge. That's why I'm saying
Broadside your van and make your van tumble over.
Yeah. And if you come out alive of that, then they have to think of something else. And so try to send you to desperation so you will kill yourself. And that's what I am saying. And never surrender. Because now the activist group of internet freedom are going to be more going on the attack.
Well, and also Anonymous. I mean, there's no reason to suspect Anonymous had any involvement with what he was doing at first, but just hours. I'm looking at an article right here that was that came out a few days ago. Just hours after the MIT pledged to investigate its role in the events leading up to the suicide, the group Anonymous defaced the school website with. Well, they say defaced. Okay, what they actually did was they put up memorial banners on a few of their websites, and they had a 4-point, I don't know what you'd call it, a list of demands. Said we call for this tragedy to be a basis for reform of computer crime laws and the overzealous prosecutors who use them. We call for this tragedy to be a basis for reform of copyright and intellectual property law. We're returning it to the proper principles of common good to the many rather than the private gain to the few. We call for this to be a basis for greater recognition of oppression and injustices heaped daily by certain persons and institutions of authority upon anyone who dares to stand up and be counted for their beliefs, and for greater solidarity and mutual aid in response. And finally, we call for this tragedy to be a basis for renewed and unwavering commitment to a free and unfettered internet spared from censorship with equality of access and franchise for all. That sounds like the Pledge of Allegiance in a little way.
Yeah, but does it have to... See, what I'm saying is why this happened with tragedies. Why they didn't put something up when he was being tried or he was called for trial? Why? Why didn't they do before? Don't let this tragedy happen. Don't let them happen again, because every time that happens, that enforces the idea that anybody that wants to destroy any organization, that wants to destroy some way too smart individual, then they can do that and get away with what they want. So you're only helping this from happening. No. Say no. Put out the word. Don't surrender and help these people. Don't leave them alone in the darkness. Do something. They won't surrender, but you gotta help. And what I am saying is also, why is it that in this country, seems to me, that all the beautiful minds are being destroyed? There is a concerted effort to destroy beautiful minds that can do a lot of good to humanity. Because somebody that can do something and use it for a bad purpose, for greed, that is not a beautiful mind. A beautiful mind is somebody that does it, put the effort, and is really competent and capable and put those efforts for the good of everybody. People are scared, are cowards, or whatever, and they don't want to do anything. Well, you can't. You cannot be neutral on this. You have to do something. That's what I am saying. The person, no matter how dark and bad it gets, don't surrender. Never surrender. But on the other hand, everybody out there, stand up and fight to protect our assets. A beautiful mind is a national asset. Do something. to protect it. Instead, people, oh, well, I'm mediocre, so that's fine. And let's attack the people that are not. Destroy the beautiful minds. This has got to stop. And I want Barbara to say her side of this issue.
Well, good afternoon, Dr. Carpenter.
Hi.
Hello, Barbara. How you doing?
I don't know how much I'll be able to contribute today because, as I told you before the show, I'm in an awful lot of pain, and which brings me back to what Dr. Carpenter was talking about, how they arrange these so-called accidents. Well, they're not accidents. The reason I'm in pain, I find this very important to state, is that they have arranged several car crashes over a period of years, each of which I was seriously injured. And the last one that took place was in 1998. And as a result, I got additional injuries to cervical vertebra. Luckily, they didn't break my neck, but it got to the point where, it was just short of breaking my neck. As a result, I developed osteoarthritis. Not having money to pay for any kind of medical treatment or care, the condition has worsened. So I live with this pain every day.
Well, it could have worsened even with medical.
By medical, I mean any kind of medicine.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
No matter what it is, not medical doctors, no. But my point is that, these people are destroyers, okay? And anybody that stands up to tell the truth, to do the right thing, to defend liberty, that person is targeted, as you have been, Dr. Carpenter, as I have been. And the second thing that I would like to mention, the thing that I find absolutely disgusting is that if they charge a person for a non-violent offense, okay, I don't care what it is. People, in my opinion, the only people that belong behind bars are murderers, violent attackers, assailants, rapists, those kind of people. Nobody belongs in a jail or a prison for a non-violent offense in which it's not a crime against a person in which nobody was injured. It was a non-injurious so-called crime by statute usually. Okay, so I don't believe in that. I believe there are many, many innocent people that have been sent to prison for offenses where those people are not at all violent or malicious, nor have harmed anybody.
And many times not guilty of anything either.
Not guilty of anything either. And those are called, in my opinion, many of them, especially the ones that end up there because they've stood up for the rest of us and our rights. Those are political prisoners, okay? And it should never, ever happen, okay? And the second, I guess the third part of this that I would like to talk about is the government's efforts against anyone, as you said, a beautiful mind, somebody who's intelligent and has morals and standing up for the right thing. And so I have something here that I would like to read, and this is from my friend Gerald Sosby. He's a former FBI agent. I think I spoke about it on last week's program too. Vietnam veteran, and he served in the FBI and was forced into early retirement. Are we getting to a commercial?
I think we are.
Okay. All right. I'll pick up on the other side.
It is so.
Free speech guaranteed. You're listening to the Orion Talk Radio Network.
You can trust me. I can help you. You can trust me.
And we're back.
And yes, and Barbara was discussing some example supporting what and things that have happened, supporting and confirming what I have been saying. It's happening. It is happening in this country still.
And we kind of got tripped over by the bumper, and I totally missed it. But you were talking about Gerald Sosby though before.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what I had failed to finish the sentence that I was saying was that he was driven out. He was forced to retire from the FBI in 1978, and the so-called charges, they were not official charges, but they were what he was doing. They had a problem with. He was defending the Constitution. He honored his oath to defend the Constitution. He reported internal crimes.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you are a little bit.
Okay.
Hopefully that's just coincidence.
Hope it's not sabotage.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
He reported internal crimes happening which he could not live with, he could not condone. He was an honorable person, he still is. In any case, they forced him to retire on the threat, okay? Either retire now or you will be incarcerated in a mental institution. So they impugned his sanity, okay? They forced him out. Now, this is a person that served with honor, and he's still serving this country with honor today, and he has been for many, many years. So he's a whistleblower from FBI. Now, when you're talking about these death messages and despair, driving people to despair, this is something the government loves to do. They want to intimidate people. They want to drive you to despair so that you don't have any hope, okay? And here's something. I think this is from 2007. This is from Gerald Sosby. And the title is Death Messages from FBI, CIA, okay? And here's what he says. It's just a short paragraph. I know my work is increasingly and adversely affecting the assassins and torturers of the FBI, CIA globally, as the hate mail and death messages roll in voluminously. The so-called, quote, intelligence services of the USA, including their agents, operatives, handlers, associates, and supporters, have discovered how to anonymously transmit hate messages and death wishes to me. In response, I must admit, however immodest this may sound, that I am heartened by each and every hate mail sent to me.
I understand that.
Yes, the contemptible and misguided miscreants who send the messages are exactly the same low-minded hoodlums who run this country and who are incapable of defending it. And I am grateful for the opportunity to expose their hideous and weak mindset to the world. Okay? So this is what we're dealing with. And one of the messages that they had sent to him, it said, "Kill yourself, Gerald Sosby." They send these things by email, okay? Kill yourself. And they're anonymous cowards, of course. You're never going to know the names, but we know who they are, and we know what they are. They are
Michelle Woven.
Exactly. They are government thugs who can't bear to see a decent, honorable person telling the truth and standing up for what is right. And this is what they do on a regular basis. And I could say to anybody out there listening, don't let them drive you to despair. With God, all things are possible. God will make a way where there is no way. You know, it's anything is possible with God. And don't let these I have no word bad enough for them, but hoodlums is a good word, as he used, hooligans or hoodlums.
Creatures from hell.
Minions of Satan, don't let them drive you to despair. Don't let them make you give up the fight.
Never surrender. You keep that in mind. Never surrender. Those are our rights, and support them and never surrender. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to win the fight, but the idea is never surrender.
Well, never surrender, and
Never
those
cooperate.
those of us who care about liberty, okay, those of us who will fight to the death for the truth, those of us out there will support you, Dr. Carpenter, and will support anybody else that's standing up for the right thing. This is outrageous. The fact that they use liars and these are pathological liars
To
and
destroy people that are actually
contributing something
good to society. Okay?
Exactly.
It's just scary. Now, I want to point out something to show that humanity has always been sickening. Eventually they lose, but how much people suffered to get to that point. And what I wanted to bring up something, it's in history and it's not even recent history, but most of us are probably aware of it. And it is Galileo Galilei, okay? He was born in February 1564, and he died in January 1642, so right smack in the middle of Renaissance, okay? Well, for what he was saying, and his crime was to use science and prove that the earth was moving and revolving around the sun. Oh, that's a terrible crime to say something like that. So he was investigated by the Roman Inquisition in that's not the Spanish Inquisition, and the Inquisition, the Catholic Inquisition right there in Rome in 1615, because the official theory was that the earth was the center of the universe and the sun was a slave running, revolving around the earth. Ridiculous, okay? But that's what the belief was. And he dared to come forward, being a physicist, and say, no, that's not what's happening. So obviously he had to be prosecuted for heresy, okay?
Well, yes, Dr. Carpenter, but this is the history. This is the history of the world. If you look
but listen, he was forced to recant his theory and forced to house arrest until he died. Okay, they did that, and then what? It came out anyway that was exactly correct. So you can hurt people, you can torture, you can force them to push him to suicide. In this case, they didn't. They gave him house arrest, and what happened? He put together the best work of his life.
Well, that's right. That's right, Dr. Carpenter. And if you look into the history of the world, okay, and if you look into the so-called Cathar heresy, okay, they burned thousands of these innocent people at the, in what they called an auto de fe. They burned these people because they were worshiping God as they chose to do. Okay, this is just sickening. That should be that is a God-given right to worship God as you choose, as long as you're not harming somebody. Okay, and it's unbelievable how this continues throughout history.
And it's still happening today.
And it's happening today, of course.
That's what I am saying. This happened in the Middle Ages. Yes, it was the middle of Renaissance. That's why Galileo was able to come out and study and make his statement. But it happened. They stopped him. They made him say, no, that I was wrong. It's not true, blah, blah, blah. All of the history goes that he recanted, and then he still said at a level tone of voice that people could hear. He said in Italian, the phrase is "e pur si muove," which means it is still moving. Do we have another break?
And we're hitting a break right now.
That's a good point to use, that bumper. That's the right one. Yeah. But what I was saying about the case of Galileo, the Catholic Church, with their horrible tribunal, they had Galileo recanting his theory, his facts, his discovery in physics, and had him spend the last 27 years of his life in house arrest. 27 years. That's outrageous, okay? That's what they do to beautiful mind. And what did that accomplish? Nothing. Because in the end, science cannot be denied, and the truth surfaced, and things were resolved. But they still made a mess of the last 27 years of his life. With what right? What right? And this was in the Middle Ages. This is the 21st century, and it's still happening. They're still doing it. Only they either push you to suicide or throw you in jail. I don't know if they do house arrest for this, but they have no right, because science will still surface, and this will still happen, and it will be recognized. It's just a matter of time. What we're saying, what the internet freedom that Aaron was supporting, all the things that these people being punished are saying, they will be supported by science and the future. They will happen. You're only trying to delay. These criminals are only trying to delay the inevitable. And in that process, they're making beautiful mind life unbearable. And some of those people just give up, which is what is wanted. No. And that's why I said that. Now, Barbara apparently has another example beside mine, so I'm going to let her give you her.
Okay, well, there's the example of Giordano Bruno, who was actually burned at the stake. And he was all along the same lines of Galileo. Okay, then you have the example of the Knights Templar. Okay, the Knights Templar. Do you know that I'm trying to remember the year that this happened, but it was also around 1100 or something.
Yeah, the 12th century probably. Yeah.
Yes, and do you know that the Catholic Church, hundreds and hundreds of years later, finally actually issued an apology.
Okay, what would that good to him?
They burned Jacques de Molay at the stake. Okay, they burned
Friday the 13th.
They also, yes, that's right, and that's where the Friday the 13th came from. That was when they arrested the Templars.
Well, and my guess is they probably wanted to do it on the 13th because 13 was already an important number,
Yes,
even then.
but
7.
But the point is, they tortured. You see, this was Philip IV, I believe, who was responsible for this. Okay, and then the Pope got involved. And the point that I'm making is that it's always about money and control and power. It's not about the truth. And they tortured these people, Knights Templar. They tortured them into making so-called confessions, just like they did in the Salem witch trials. Confession. Right. Well, guess what? A confession under torture is no confession at all.
It's not a confession. We all know that. They can
break just about anybody. They can break just about...
And just the same, even without torture, offering Aaron Schwartz, if you admit guilt to all of these counts, we are giving you lesser sentences. That's not value. A confession under those conditions has no value.
No, that's duress and coercion, okay? It's duress and coercion. And that these are the tools that they use. If you even look up to the present day, they've got torture that's supported by the administration of the United States of America, CIA, renditions, waterboarding. How dare you? This is a human being. You do not, it's against every possible ethical principle that you can imagine. And it's also unlawful. It's against the law. It's cruel and unusual punishment. You do not torture anybody for any reason. And you see,
And this is the 21st century. It's not the Middle Ages.
no, it's not. But nothing much has changed.
No, not as much has changed. And the problem is that the public is allowing this. You have to put up one hell of a fight to put an end to it. It's not easy, but you have to do it for yourself and for the future.
Because I can tell you this, as Christians, for those of us who are Christians, it's our duty. It is not just something, oh, maybe you can do. No, it is our duty to stand up and tear down demonic strongholds. It's our duty to stand up for human rights. It's our duty to fight against evil that is taking over this country and the entire world.
Okay, so under that view, under that angle, don't you think that it is my duty to keep fighting because I know that what I do resolve the cancer without suffering? And I know that kills cancer. Isn't it my duty to continue on?
I would say so. But it takes a lot of courage, Dr. Carpenter, which you have displayed, okay? Because you know the facts. You are a scientist. You have determined what the facts are. You have demonstrated what the facts are through your practice that you have done. And basically, they want to shut you down, which they've already shut down your practice. They've left you bereft of everything you need. They've stolen your documents, your lasers, and your money. Okay?
And they're not done.
But they're not, oh no, they're not done. They'll keep at it. They'll keep at it in every possible way that they can get away with. But that's the phrase. What can they get away with?
Childishness.
I believe it's the duty of any person, any patriot, any Christian, any person with a moral compass to not let them get away with it. That we have to support those people, including Dr. Carpenter or Gerald Sosby or any number of others who have taken a stand for the truth to defend liberty in not only health, freedom from control on those issues, but every God-given right that we possess.
We have them, but nobody is paying attention to them, so we have to make them. Those are our rights, and you have no call to try to stop it. Those are our rights, and we have to fight for it. Just because we have a constitution, it does not mean that people in charge are following it. We have to make them follow it. And that's what I've been trying to say.
Carpenter. And, you know, Thomas Jefferson said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. You can't sit back and say, oh, I'll be a weekend warrior. I'll be a armchair philosopher, a keyboard commando. No, you have to stand up and do something.
You have to. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. And I know it's not convenient. I know that brings a lot of headaches and a lot of sleepless nights, and sometimes even if you sleep, you're not resting because your mind is constantly going on what is happening. But you have to do it, otherwise things are only going to get worse for yourself and your descendants. So you have to.
Exactly. That's right, Dr. Carpenter. You know, the American Revolution, as far as I know of the statistics involved, it was 3 to 4% of the general populace at the time of the American Revolution that actually were involved, who stood up and did something. The rest of them, they did nothing, okay? But look what 3 to 4% can do, all right? And it's the same today. You don't need to have everybody because you're never going to get everybody.
No.
Most of them don't give a damn. Okay, so we have to just say, okay, fine. They don't give a damn. But hopefully we can get through to those people who understand that if we don't do something, if we don't take a stand, if we don't stand up in the defense of those people who are in front, at the front lines, with whatever they have, that you will pay the price, but worse, your children and your grandchildren will pay the price.
Absolutely. And people should keep that in mind. You want to make
Your grandchildren are paying a price right now.
Well, they're
Yeah.
paying a price already. I've got 3
Yeah.
grandchildren, and before I had the grandchildren, I was still in the same fight, and I will be in the same fight until the day I die. But, the fight is more important to me now that I do have the grandchildren.
right. I have
Because
three
these are people, these are just beautiful. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren that I love. And over my dead body, if it has to happen, I'm not going to let somebody destroy their lives.
And it's just unbelievable that I have to put you in that position and say, hey, I have to do this because
Yeah, you can't. If you're a freedom fighter, a real freedom fighter, a hardcore freedom fighter, then you have to continue to work. You don't have any luxuries. You don't
touch
have
that
much
mouse.
free time,
Medical conspiracy
and you
will
can't
return
have a
in just a
so-called
moment.
normal life. Well, so be it. If that's the way it is.
Okay, we're back for the second hour, and again, I must apologize because we didn't hear the music for the ending of the first hour. We totally missed it, and I don't know where our voices were cut off. I have no idea what section of my sentence was cut off, and I couldn't say, okay, this is the end of the first hour. We'll get you back on the other after the commercial and the news. I missed it totally, and I don't even remember exactly what was the statement I was making when we realized that the first hour was over. So I'm not sure, but the statement, the general discussion at that time is a suppression of facts that certain special interests make, and the effort they put into suppressing what is not convenient to their financial interests. And this has been going on forever in humanity, in the Middle Ages, and it's still going on. That's the disgusting part. It's still going on in the 21st century. So, unfortunately, as I said, the percentage of people that are set there to fight is very small, but like Barbara said, during the American Revolution was 3 or 4%, and look what they did. Well, today, 3 or 4% of the American population is a much larger number than it was at the time of the Revolution. So even 3-4% should be plenty to accomplish what we need to accomplish. The only question is, can we all join together forces and do something about this, put an end to the abuses? And that's what I am trying to do. I'm trying to get people to be aware of what is going on, and they have to fight for their freedom of choice in everything, including healthcare, but everything else too. What they hear, the nonsense information that is given on the media, the recognized media, everything that they hear, they must filter the truth out of it, and then go on in what is possible to do to resolve the problem, so our future generation will be actually free, and then they would have to keep up the fight to maintain the freedom they have, that we have protected for them. We have
Dr.
to,
Carpenter,
yeah.
The one thing that I always say is that liberty and God-given rights, individual rights, unalienable rights, they are non-negotiable. You don't negotiate for a gift from God. You don't. And the problem with most of the population is they are willing to compromise.
Yeah.
They're willing to not only listen to the tyrants who are doing everything in their power to take away God-given rights. Of course, nobody can take them away. They can only violate them. They still exist, but they won't stand up for the full truth or for the unalienable rights of the individual.
Yeah, that's the problem, and a lot of it is fear, laziness, or I don't know, people that want to leave me out of this. How can you be out of anything that affects everybody's life? How can you say leave me out of
you
it?
know what? People might try to do that, Dr. Carpenter.
Oh, yeah.
I think most people All right. I think in their hearts, I really believe that most people just want to be free. Whether they are willing to take the time and make the effort to stand up for that is the problem, because most of them are not. Okay, and then if
And
they
then
start,
of course, yeah.
they start to lose things that they've taken for granted, and
A little bit at a time, yeah.
instead of saying, I was remiss in not doing the right thing when I had the chance. I was remiss for not standing up, for fighting. They'll just pass the blame to somebody else. And it's nobody else's fault. For you or me or anybody that's like us, no, we've done everything and will continue to do everything in our power. So we don't blame ourselves because we're doing what needs to be done. It's the people who are not doing what needs to be done, who out of fear or intimidation by government or apathy or just they're looking, I'd like to just have peace and quiet and be left alone. Well, that would be nice, but if you want to have that, then you're going to have to fight for your right to have that.
Absolutely, and that's the hardest thing to make people understand. Freedom is not something that once you have it, it will be there forever. No, you have to fight for it. Not just what Jefferson said, but it's still going on today. So you have to keep fighting to make sure that you can maintain it. It's just like people that have a lot of money. Yeah, they get the money. You know what's the hardest thing? Not getting all that money, it's keeping it.
Well, yes, and one of the things that I've noticed, Dr. Carpenter, is when it comes down to a person like yourself or me or others who are trying to get donations, trying to get support in order to continue what we do. Do you know who gives us anything? The people with almost nothing.
I know.
The people who have something, it's, they're the cheapest, the stingiest, and I think emotionally and spiritually they are stingy because they don't recognize that if you don't give what you have to support what you believe in, you yourself will lose.
I know, but people don't understand that, and they go. I mean, of course, then there is the other group of individuals, the Michelle Wovens of this world, that they take money to harass innocent people.
Well, those are called snitches, Dr. Carpenter, or they would call them scabs or snitches. These are people with no moral values whatsoever, who are either deluded into some religious indoctrination belief system, which has nothing to do with spiritual truth or any kind of goodness of any kind. And these are the ones that will go out of their way to do as much damage to people as possible, just for their own gain, for their own ends.
And what it is not really. It's not really their gain. They think it is because they get a little bit of money out of it. Oh yeah, big deal.
Or people like Michelle Wolven.
Yeah,
I consider this kind of person some kind of approval seeker. She's looking to get credit. Look at me, I'm Michelle Wolven. I defend the defenseless and the innocent. And
that was the poison peanuts. Michelle Warren gets money. The poison peanuts was the one. You remember me. You remember my name. I destroyed Elizabeth Inc. You remember my name. But the Wolven type.
What, Dr. Carpenter? This is something I know in my heart, and I firmly believe is that God sees it all, and whatever happens here. At some point, there will be judgment, and the people who have lied and the people who have done evil to harm others, they will be judged, and there will be consequences. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep fighting. We have to fight. It's our duty to fight. But
Yeah, but look, that principle, yes, that will obviously happen. But is that something that would help Aaron Schwartz?
no.
See, that's what I am saying. They do so much damage before they end up paying for what they have done. They have done way much damage.
Yes, they do. But if you look again to Scripture in Ephesians 5:11, it says, "Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead expose them." We are expected as Christians not to participate, to take no part, to give no quarter to these evildoers, and we are expected to expose.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're doing here.
Yep, we are exposing what they're doing. But, unfortunately, I cannot bring back Aaron Schwartz.
No,
I can't.
here's the music.
Oh, we got a break. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Never turning the other cheek. Somebody give me a doctor.
Yeah, somebody get me a doctor. A lot of good is that going to do to you? More than likely, it's going to make your situation worse. Anyway, but... So, we were talking about what is happening, and we all need to get involved to put an end to cases like the one of Aaron Schwartz. We cannot allow anything like that to happen again. We have to be there to support people that are fighting the system and the wrong things the system is doing. We have to be there with them. We have to help them and protect them. We have to what we can to help them. Anything, not ignore them. Okay? We all have to.
People that the people, I would assume that the people that are listening to this broadcast are listening. I'm talking about the good people anyway, the people that are interested in the truth. They are listening for that reason, okay, because they care or they're concerned. Okay, so if you have how many listeners out there and they're hearing this and they're taking the time out of their schedule to listen to this program, those people could also take the time to sign your petition, and maybe you can give us, or Randy can give us, how they can do that.
Well, the easiest way to get to the petition is to right now go to our Facebook page. Actually, that's not even the easiest way. Right now, the easiest way is to just go to medicalconspiracy.com, and in the right-hand margin, there is a link right at the top of the page. They can either go that way or they can go through we've got links everywhere. If you're on our Facebook page, there's a link at the top. To actually read out the link, it's really long. It's a really long link, and it's easier to get to it through our external links. But we've got about 290 petition signatures on there right now.
That's not near enough.
It's not nearly enough. No, it's had surges, but here lately it's not.
What has happened that's on the petition? That Dr. Carpenter was raided by the FDA under a false pretense. It was an entrapment scheme, made an appointment for a so-called patient, and then came in with a warrant under false pretenses, like a sting operation, and stole everything you had, your money, your documents, your records, and your lasers that you use for the treatment. So this property
and indirectly everything else that she had, too.
Yes, exactly, because from there, it had the domino effect. She lost everything because of what these people have done. And it was unlawful. Her property should be returned.
All of it, yeah. But also the fact that made accusations that are completely ridiculous. Like we were a store selling adulterated drugs and adulterated equipment. A complete set of lies.
There was no drug involved.
Interstate wire fraud.
Yeah, no drug involved whatsoever. You were practicing legally under the laws of the state which you are in, and in the previous state that you were in, and you know, they had and have no right under the law to do what they have done.
That's why I'm saying, please sign the petition, because that will help me fight the system and try to bring back something that people need so they can have an alternative. If they want to follow what their physician tells them, fine. It's a mistake, but they're free to do whatever they want to. I am saying is you cannot stop people that are looking for something else from having access to it. You cannot do that, because that's violating their freedom. And this is what happens. Now, one thing that came out today has been in the news before, but today, Marcola, which is supposed to be, so alternative, great person helping the public, and he really isn't. But in his newsletter of today, he was talking about the Brzezinski case. And I really want to point out this Brzezinski case to tell you how...
Brzezinski?
Yeah.
Brzezinski. Oh, I've never heard of him. Who's Brzezinski?
All right. He's Stanislaw Brzezinski. Okay.
But Dr. Carpenter, do you not just... Let me interject one quick thing.
Sure.
Do you know how many people, I'm sure you do, that they hear of your case and they come out, oh, well, look what happened to Brzezinski. But there's no comparison. There's no commonality here at all.
Nothing. And that's what I wanted to say. That's
Yeah,
what
you know,
they're
people,
talking
you're not doing anything to help Dr. Carpenter's case by pushing the Brzezinski story that everybody has heard over and over and over and over.
But the Brzezinski story tells you something, though. That's why I wanted to point it out, okay? Mercola today said, case dismissed. The Texas hand ends the 15 years fight against the cancer Dr. Brzezinski. One of the comments in that conversation and discussion that comes after, they say, these... the one he uses, combination drugs are within standard of care. So the case is being dismissed. So can you read this? Drugs, combination drugs. What he does, they're saying, is using his new neoplastons. It's just a ridiculous name that he put out. And combination gene therapy. But, you know, I already discussed many times before what the new anti-neoplastons are. Just a name for something that actually is a urine extract. Okay? And the gene therapy, who knows what. But he also uses, after he said, well, this is not working, he uses normal chemotherapy. See what they say? The case has been dismissed because he was found to do something that was within standard care.
In other words, there's a compromise.
He did. Right.
Which should never, ever be made. There is no compromise with the truth. There's no compromise with the facts.
And actually, in reality, his anti-neoplastons are really questionable whether they are successful or not. Everybody's saying, oh, he's so great. I cannot tell you anything about brain cancer. I can only tell you my opinion, but I do not have any evidence or facts to say, no, that doesn't work for brain cancer either. But I can tell you for everything else, it does not work. And I have evidence from patients that have come to me thereafter. No, it doesn't work. It might maybe slow down the growth. Maybe. In some cases, even doesn't do that. And in fact, in one of the two recent lawsuits, that they were saying that, the accusation was that he was giving these two patients drugs that were not FDA approved, but also he was overcharging them for the drugs, and which is true because the amount that he charges is obscene. And then in one particular case of the two, he did not inform the patient that the treatment was not working. Okay, well, the patient knew that. But now what he does is, and I heard from other patients, is he gives him his whatever. Oh, and
Here we
another
come
break.
to the break again.
Yeah.
Free speech guaranteed. You're listening to the Orion Talk Radio Network.
Yep, testify, because who control the past will control the future. So testify to the truth. Okay, so what I was saying about Dr. Brzezinski was that he was charged that of not informing the patient that the treatment was not working, which is what happens all the time. And maybe it works on brain cancer. I don't know. I have a lot of my doubts because of what he claims, but I'm not going to get into that because I have nothing to refer it to except for a few things that I've heard to discuss the subject of brain cancer. I don't deal with that, and I am not getting into it. Maybe it works. I don't know. Maybe I doubt it because of the principle he claims on how the cancer works. If he was working, we'll work on everything else, not just brain cancer, because we're going back to the same old story, drugs. Oh, they work for this cancer, but not the other. And what it means is they don't work for anything anyway. Okay. But, so the case was dismissed, but the thing at the center of the issue of the case being dismissed is that he was within standard of care. So his license cannot be removed. Within standard of care. What does that mean is chemo. If you give patient chemo, you are within standard of care set by the AMA, and then you're okay. Now let me say something else also. FDA cannot get involved in medical care. They do not have the authority. They do not have a mandate to decide anything or evaluate medical care. They can only discuss drugs.
Well, that is medical care nowadays. It's
Yeah,
all
but-
about drugs.
Yeah, but they can approve drugs or disapprove them for sale. See, it's all connected with sale. FDA is only connected with sale. Approve drugs for sale to the public. Equipment to be used for the public. Sale of equipment. That's what FDA is. That's the interest, and that's where FDA has authority. Sales of drugs or equipment. That's why they had no say in anything I did, because I didn't use drugs. I wasn't selling anything. I wasn't selling equipment. Nothing. All it was is healthcare, and they have no authority over that. Okay? Now we have said that and pointed out that he sold to the system. That's why he's so wealthy. And I am not, and that's why don't have any money. I am totally wiped out. Okay? And even before, what I was making was just covering the business. Wasn't really making anybody wealthy. It was just helping the public and having enough funds to cover all the expenses.
And
Yeah.
let's mention, Dr. Carpenter, again, something that's very needful to mention, that everything that you were doing in your practice was completely lawful. You were a law-abiding person in everything that you did. There was never at any time any unlawful or illegal action in which you participated.
None whatsoever, but that doesn't seem to matter.
Well, you know, let's get into some of the tactics that these characters use, okay? And,
Yeah.
And this is something that's in a particular, in a number of cases, all right, and cases of other people that I have known. These federal agents are thugs. They will do anything they can get away with. They think it's, we can plausible deniability. We can do something and it can't be tracked back to us. So they hire people. They hire other criminals, thugs and hoodlums, and somebody that wants to make a buck, all right?
Like the guy that's
Now-
standing on my front porch with a printed copy of the Medical Conspiracy Facebook page
Yeah.
telling me I didn't have the right to print that stuff.
Well, exactly. I mean, I can give you another example of something like this. This happened many years ago, that when I first got a website online, I think it was like in the year 2000. Before that, I was on the internet from 1995 publishing my reports, but I didn't have a website. When I finally got somebody as a webmaster, he was an old friend. What they did is he had printed out a flyer for me, and it just said, Barbara Hartwell, CIA Black Ops survivor. All right. They broke into his home. He wasn't there. And they came in. They took all the documents that I had given him for posting on the website, some one-of-a-kind documents. All right. And they threw his equipment, his electronic equipment, costing him thousands of dollars, into the bathtub, and they ran water over it. And then they dumped hundreds of copies that they had made themselves of Barbara Hartwell, CIA, Black Ops survivor, and they dumped these copies as a message all over his apartment. It was in New York City. So that was their little message, like, don't dare try to help this person because we are on the case. All right. Now, then other tactics they use that they've done to me numerous times, and they have like a special way of doing this, okay? If they want to put you into a vulnerable position, one of the major things they do is sabotage and vandalism of your vehicle. All right, so I have had my brake lines cut. All right, I've had my brake lines cut. I've had them drain the oil, puncture the oil so that all the oil leaked out just before they knew I was about to take some kind of a trip somewhere. And then I've had them puncture my tires. Now, one of the things, because these
Childish.
people, it's very childish, okay? But they also have a way of doing things where they want to relay a message. I've had a screw in my tire, okay? Just a screw that it was so obvious that somebody came up to the car, drove in the screw and screwed it in, and their message to me was, screw you, okay? Screw you.
Right.
Now, a friend of mine that's probably now still in prison for his fight against these people is Rick Stanley. He told me many years ago, I think it was 2005 or 2006, he told me that on his birthday, which is July 14th, and I know that because I have an eidetic memory. I remember dates. He said that
July 14th, that's Bastille Day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
14 juillet. Yeah.
Well, yes. And he told me, he sent me an email, or he told me on the phone. I can't remember. It was way back, like 7 years ago or 6 or 7 years ago. He said, on my birthday, I found a screw in my tire. See, this is how they'll do it. When they know it's important to you for some reason, it's a sacred day, they do it on Christmas or Easter or any other day that could be important or meaningful to you, and they do it when they want to stop you from moving so that they can, in other words, they don't want you to be able to go anywhere. They want to neutralize you. So they will let the air out of your tires. They will slice the tires, put a screw in your tire, whatever they can do that they can get away with. And how are you ever going to prove that it goes back to them? That's the problem. You can't.
Right.
That's awful.
Well, and you know, we had for, I mean, going on a year, I mean, it took place over the span of 2 years, I think, you know, vandalism in all sorts, all shapes and sizes. We had obscenities spray painted on our cars. We had, I had a window knocked out of my car. Later found a big marble, in the seat.
The fact that they didn't do it to me is because I was renting. There was no real record.
Okay, here's the break, but I have much more to say about that.
Great.
If there's nothing I can take, I said,
Okay, we're back from another commercial, and I don't know what the commercial was about, but I thought I recognized the screaming voice of Alex Jones there. So,
hey, just trying to do the right thing.
Right.
Be a moral person and do the right thing.
Yeah, right.
Don't be a scumbag.
Yeah, Alex Jones, a.k.a. controlled opposition. Yeah, we have gone over that several times. But anyway, so going back to the stupid, childish, and really criminal action of the government when against the people that they are targeting, I think that Barbara has more to say about it, right?
Well, yes, Dr. Carpenter. I should first say that we mentioned this before, but they try as much as possible to operate under plausible deniability. Okay, so that nothing can ever be traced back to them, no matter how obvious that it may be.
No,
So-
that would be childish.
Of course, but they're cowards, okay? We're
Yeah.
talking about cowards because you know what? A truthful person, an honorable person, if they have an adversary or a perceived adversary for whatever reason, they will come up to you face to face or directly in some manner and confront you, okay? They're not going to use sabotage, subterfuge, deceit in order to get you into their net, okay? And that's unfortunately what this country has become, where the government is not honorable. They're not honorable. They don't care about the people. They don't care even about the law. It's become a lawless country where the ends justify the means, according to these people. That's how they operate.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I have seen it enough times. I'm sure you have too. Right?
Yes, I have. And the campaigns, and that's what they're called, officially, they will run a campaign going back to J. Edgar Hoover and the COINTELPRO, neutralize them, a dissident, anybody, any person who tells the truth, defends individual rights, or tries in their best to pursue their God-given rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No, happiness is not guaranteed, but your right to the pursuit of happiness is a God-given right. As long as you're not violating the rights of others, which in your case, Dr. Carpenter, and in mine, we have never done.
No, we haven't, but they sure have violated our rights from left to right.
Yeah. And that's because they can get away with it. They can get away with it. And if enough people finally decided to grow a backbone, grow a spine, stand up when you see somebody else being violated and abused and their rights being trampled, you stand up for that person. That's what I do. And I know that's what you do, Dr. Carpenter. Any person, any worthy person that is doing something, that is has the truth, that is defending the God-given rights and liberties of us all. I believe if you're a patriot, you want to call yourself a patriot, then you should stand up in any way that you can and help in any way you can, whatever kind of support you can offer, whether it's material support or anything else. If you don't do that, if you see crimes being committed against innocent people, I believe it's your duty to stand up and say, I'm going to stand in the gap here. I am going to be a person who will defend the rights of others.
And what I like to add about this is that these people today have this fixation of saying, oh, that person is a hero. Oh, that person is a patriot. Forget all of that. That person is doing what he's supposed to be doing as a human. Okay?
Well,
Don't
you have
use this.
to be, Dr. Carpenter, what I've always believed is we have to be our own heroes. Yeah, there's people that I look at and I say, yeah, those people are my heroes. And you're one of them, Dr. Carpenter, one of my personal heroes, a person that I can respect and admire because they're standing up for the truth. They're fighting for the truth. Okay? But we all have to do that. We all should be doing it.
And I think it's not an issue of some people being hero. I think it's an issue of the majority being scum.
Exactly. Well, yes.
We're not hero, they are scum. Okay, that's a different thing.
Because hopefully we'll be able to get through to people.
So,
that's my hope. That's
3-4%, you know?
That's what I work for. I present information on my website or radio broadcasts in the belief and the hope that it will help others to make informed decisions if they have the truth and the facts of what's really going on here.
Yeah. And you know, that is part of their responsibility as human being, as citizen of the planet. It's just to do something, fight against dishonesty, fight against abuse of people's rights, fight against lies used to destroy people just because they might be dangerous to certain special interests. That's part of the obligation of a human being to do.
And it's, as we mentioned before, it's the history of the world. It's the history of the world. I mean, Jesus Christ was crucified for standing up for the truth, okay? For standing up for the truth. And so it goes. In any lesser case, throughout the history of the world, that we have to be that person that will stand up and say, you have to come through me before you go and try to destroy somebody else.
Well, you know, you do realize, even though nobody points this out, Jesus was saying that people, everybody, we are all children of God, okay? He said that. That was destroying the big business of religion in those days.
Even back then.
That's right. That's right.
Even back then. So that's why he was crucified for the same old greed.
And
that's what it was.
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And you're supposed to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. That is not happening here in this country.
No.
It needs to happen.
And especially when your neighbor acts like your enemy, you know. I have all these knives stuck in my back that I can't get off, you know?
Yes.
Just some of the people that claim to be friends.
Let those who have ears to hear or eyes to see, let those people come forward and do the right thing.
Yeah, it's even hard to get patients to actually be loud enough. They say something, but it's not loud enough. And the reason is that they're afraid. They're afraid of the consequences. So they say, I'm doing well. I'm free of cancer. I don't have any more problem. Hey, you know, that's it. I'm going to keep quiet, not get involved. But by not getting involved, you allow the system to do what they're doing. And you are allowing people to be deprived of the freedom to receive the same great help that they have received. See, that's what gets me. How can you do that? I know years ago there was a patient that she went home and she was doing great, and she knew that her next door neighbor was suffering through cancer treatment. It was the same type of cancer she had, and she didn't say a word. Not one word. I mean, she would not have listened to me, so she blew it off that way. That would have been her call. Your call was to inform her what happened to you. You know? What your experience was. Inform the people. No, hide, I don't care. It's just great for me. Who cares about others?
Got about a minute, maybe less.
Okay. Well, I think that we have presented as much as we could. I have another bone to pick about the issue of Newtown and the reaction and the uses an excuse of attacks of gun and also attacks of people that support conspiracy. So, but we don't have the time today. We'll see what we can do next week.
Thank you, Dr. Carpenter, for having me once again.
It's great to have you, and we'll discuss that next week. But you're gonna be a regular on the show, a co-host. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. So.
Because my schedule's going to change. And
it's going to not be possible for you unless we pre-record something that you might want to say. So it just, I wonder if that was done. Well, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Okay, but at least we were able today to present everything, most of the things we wanted to present, and I hope that people would spend time to meditate over what we have said, over what we have presented, and start to think that maybe there is something they can do. Maybe there is something they can do to help stop the abuses that are going on uncontrolled every day, and they are increasing.
And you said meditate, not medicate.
No, I said meditate. I don't take that yourself drug.
Medical Conspiracy with Dr. Carpenter.